For more on this, I'm joined by Miyelani Maluleke. He's an economist at ABSA. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. So we've heard about this 50.8 billion rand revenue shortfall. Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba delivering the budget tomorrow. We're expecting value-added tax to increase. What does this mean for us in our pockets?
Yeah, look, I have to say that it's not our baseline view that VAT is going to be increased, but we do acknowledge that there's a really good chance that it might be one of the levers that he tries to pull. I think it's a very difficult budget for him because he's got to achieve a couple of things here. He needs to figure out how to narrow the budget deficit and to try stabilize South Africa's public debt. But at the same time, we seem to be having a fragile growth recovery in South Africa right now. So he would not want to implement tax measures that undermine that growth recovery, right? So it's sort of competing demands here, stabilizing public finances, but at the same time not harming the weak growth that you have.
What other ways, perhaps, can we look at plugging this deficit? There's a sugar tax that could possibly come in, an increase in the fuel levy.
Yeah. So look, I think the sugar tax is a certainty. It's certainly coming in. We think it's got potential to raise about 5 billion rands. VAT, if it is implemented, will certainly be a big one. We think it's got potential to raise about 22 billion rands for the national treasury. But we just find it difficult to think that it's one of the levers that they're going to pull. Because it's in South Africa, it's certainly perceived to be to hurt the poor, which is not entirely true because you've got a lot of zero-rated products in South Africa. But certainly, if they do increase VAT, I think it will be politically unpopular. So I think that they're probably going to try look at other measures. Personal income taxes, we do think that it's a lever that they could pull. We think they could raise the top-end marginal rate by 2 percentage points. That gives them about 3 billion rands, and they could try to get people hit by fiscal bracket creep again. I think that's an additional 4 or 5 billion rand. So we think they're probably going to try look at other measures first before they pull the VAT trigger.
Small and medium enterprises contribute about 30% to our GDP. They employ about 60% of people, I think, in the formal labor force. Is this a way, if that sector improved, that we could see more money coming into South Africa and circulating in South Africa? Yeah,
absolutely. I think President Ramaphosa was very clear in his inaugural sauna that the focus going forward needs to be about, how do we create jobs? And I think in South Africa, we do realize that if, we're going to create a lot of jobs, then it's not going to be a big corporates. You need to figure out how you actually support small and medium-sized enterprises. So I think the challenge for Minister Gigaba tomorrow, in addition to closing the budget deficit, will be to figure out what sort of incentives, what sort of support mechanisms they can announce that will be supportive to small and medium-sized enterprises going forward, because that, as you say, is where the biggest job potential really lies.
We've spoken about quite serious issues, and one thing that we haven't spoken about is the sin tax increases every year. Does it add much to the budget? Does it add much to the economy, or are we just taxing people for smoking and drinking?
Look, your biggest sources of tax revenues in South Africa are three. It's personal income taxes, it's VAT, it's corporate income taxes. So sin taxes do make a difference, but certainly not the biggest. And I think, but they also happen to be the easiest to adjust. And I think there's very little doubt that when the minister tables the budget tomorrow, sin taxes will be one of those sort of measures that he will be looking to collect additional revenue from.
This is going to be one of the most watched speeches. We know that ratings agencies are closely monitoring. There's been issues of policy uncertainty and economic uncertainty in South Africa. What does Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba need to do when he delivers this budget in order to ensure people that the situation is under control and we don't need further downgrades?
It's a really critical point that you mentioned, because you'll remember that Moody's actually put us on review for a downgrade on the 24th of November. And I think they will be looking to see what sort of measures are announced in this budget for them to make a decision. And what I think they'll be looking for is a budget that is credible in terms of stabilizing South Africa's debt over the medium term, but at the same time one that also does not harm South Africa's growth recovery. But it's going to be a very difficult balancing act for Finance Minister, but it's certainly a critical budget for ratings.
Miyelani Maluleke, thanks so much for your time on SABC News. He's an economist at ABSA.